everyone, and welcome to the start of a new vlog. I'm so excited today because we're planning to head to Haworth a little later, and I haven't been back to Haworth for a couple of years, I think. You may remember that we visited a few summers back and we saw the Brontë parsonage. I did a vlog about it then, which I'll link to in the description box. But on the day we went, for one, there were still a lot of restrictions due to COVID at that time, so we couldn't explore the town a great deal. And it was also absolutely awful weather, so we really couldn't walk about too much. So I've been wanting to go back ever since. I mean, I loved seeing the Brontë parsonage. I'm such a fan of the Brontës, and it was amazing to see where they lived. There's such famous Yorkshire writers, of course, too, that it was very special to see their Yorkshire home place. But I also had been disappointed we hadn't had a chance to explore Haworth itself a bit more. So today we're going to go back and do that. There's a little secondhand bookshop that I really want to see there, and I just want to have a bit of an amble about and enjoy exploring the town, which is very picturesque and lovely. So I'm really looking forward to that and to bringing you along with us. But just before we go, I thought I'd hop on and catch you up a bit with my reading. In my last video, I told you about my February to be read pile, and I've made a start on that already. I finished, I think on the 1st of February, actually, I read this in the evening. This is the very slight novella Reunion by Fred Ullman. And oh my goodness, this is such an incredible book. I highly recommend it. As I said in my last video, this month being a short month, I'm sort of celebrating short form literature. And this is just such a wonderful example of conciseness in writing, and there's just this spare subtlety to the text that is truly incredible. This is an amazingly well-written book. The subject matter is so impactful as well. It's about a very intense friendship between two young boys growing up in Germany in the 1930s. The last line of the book really hits you. It's one of those books where the last line just sort of changes so much of your perception of the story. Another book that did that for me was Little Boy Lost by Margarita Lasky. The ending to that book kind of changes everything, and this is a similar one. You get to the end and it just makes you want to share the book too. It's hard not to cry at the end as well, but it has the most amazing last line in a book, and it also has an incredible first line, which shows it's the perfect book to read in February too, because the first line in the book is, "He came into my life in February 1932 and never left it again." Well, I think that really makes you want to read more of the story, but also it shows it's a perfect book to pick up in February. Like I said, it's a story about a very special friendship between two young boys. It's narrated by a young German Jewish boy, and it describes his friendship with an aristocratic German boy who joins the school, and they have a very special friendship that sort of strikes up between them. But this is Germany in the 1930s. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, and that ultimately puts a huge strain on the friendship. There are some beautiful descriptions of Germany, though. This book was definitely inspired partly by the author's own experiences of growing up in Germany. He fled the country, I believe, in the 1930s. He was originally a lawyer in Germany, and there's just such a sense of yearning for a place that no longer exists in this book. And I thought I'd just read a little extract to you. On Saturdays, Conradin and I used to take a slow train and go and spend the night in one of many old heavily timbered inns. where one could get a cheap, clean room, excellent food, and local wine. Sometimes we went to the Black Forest, where the dark woods, smelling of mushrooms, and the tears of amber-coloured mastic were threaded through by trout streams with sawmills on their banks. Sometimes we wandered on as far as the mountain tops, and in the bluish distance one could see the valley of the quick-flowing Rhine. Or the Neckar would tempt us, with gentle breezes, heralds of Italy, and you with your poplars, beloved river, or the Danube with its trees enough, white flowering and reddish and darker ones, wild full of dark green leaves. The writing and the structure of it almost goes into a poem at the end of that. It's just such beautiful, such poetic prose in this book, and I wanted to share that little example with you. But I so recommend reading this. Like I said, it's one that will really stay with you. It's one that you want to share with others once you've read it too, and such a great start to my reading month in February. And then I've also made a start on both Wild Places, this collection of Catherine Mansfield short stories, and this new biography of her, All Sorts of Lives, Catherine Mansfield and the Art of Risking Everything. I think I've read most of the introduction to this, and then I've read the first short story from here that's examined in the biography. So this biography is structured by looking at about 10 or 11, I think, short stories of Catherine Mansfield and then her life at the time that she wrote or published them. So I'm kind of reading the matching short stories along as I read the biography. And that will be a project that I kind of keep going, I think, throughout February. So I'm enjoying that. Then I got a couple of books in the post that I'm really excited about. I had pre-ordered Laura Purcell's latest book, The Whispering Muse, and I'm very much looking forward to starting this. I love her Gothic, historic novels. They're always such gripping reads, and it felt very appropriate to get such a good Gothic book as we're about to head off to Brontë territory. So I can't wait for this one. I think this is set in the world of the theatre too, London's West End. So I'm really excited about this one. And then I just got a book parcel in the post. So I thought I would open this up with you. Chocolate coin. How nice. Chocolate in February is always very welcome too. Oh, amazing. So this is Medusa by Jessie Burton, another brilliant writer. I think this is the sort of paperback edition that's come out. It says, if I told you that I'd killed a man with a glance, would you wait to hear the rest? The why, the how, what happened next? Exiled to a far-flung island after being abused by powerful gods, Medusa has little company other than the snakes that adorn her head instead of hair. Haunted by the memories of a life before everything was stolen from her, she has no choice but to make peace with her present, Medusa the monster. But when the charmed and beautiful Perseus arrives on the island, her lonely existence is blown apart, unleashing desire, love, and betrayal. That sounds like such a good read as well. So I was really excited to get this from Bloomsbury. Thank you very much to Bloomsbury. So I had better just finish my cup of tea and then we have to get off. I can't wait, and I'm looking forward to showing you around Haworth as well. Hello again, everyone. It's the next day, and I wanted to come on to show you what we got in Haworth. We had such a wonderful time. The weather wasn't great. When we left, it was lovely and sunny in our little part of Yorkshire, and then as we drove to Haworth, it started to rain harder and harder, and I did get quite worried. But fortunately, when we got there, it was a fairly light drizzle and it wasn't absolutely bucketing it down like it did the last time we were there. So no sunny skies, but fortunately not raining as hard as it has been when we visited in the past. So it all added to the atmosphere, that's for sure. And we had a lot of fun just walking around the town and getting to explore the shops a little bit more, which was what we'd really wanted to do. I will link in the video description box to my tour of the Brontë house itself if you want to have a look at that, because I did a lot of filming the last time we went all around the parsonage and I filmed all of that. So if you'd like to see that, then have a look at that video, because yesterday we really just wanted to spend time in the town and explore the shops and things like that. And one of the bookshops was closed, but we discovered another secondhand one that was open. And oh my goodness, my mum said it reminded her of dreams she has sometimes, you know, the dream when you discover this amazing bookshop that's just full of treasures. And that bookshop is a bit like that. It's called Hatchard and Daughters, and they only open Friday through Sunday. But it's so worth going if you're in the area and you love secondhand books like we do. It is a secondhand bookshop, but there are just so many beautiful, lovely books in there, and we were so excited and we did pick up a few things. So I thought I'd show them to you. But we also had a lot of fun sort of just strolling around, looking in a few other little shops, and we went to a 1940s inspired cafe to have some tea and cake and scones in the afternoon, which was a lot of fun too. So yes, we ended up just having a really lovely afternoon, and I highly recommend going if you're in the area. And obviously if you're Brontë fans, it means so much, but the little village itself is very much worth exploring too, and you must go to Hatchard and Daughters. It's such a great bookshop. I'll show you what we got. So I picked up this folio book, A Gardener's Year, which was really, really reasonable. I was absolutely thrilled to find such a beautiful folio, and it's wonderfully illustrated as well. There are such beautiful illustrations all through it, and it goes season by season through the year with lovely quotes and extracts all relating to the garden and gardeners, and it's just the sort of anthology that I love. So I was really thrilled to find this. And then I adored these books when I was little, the Church Mouse, the Church Mice series by Graham Oakley. They were real favourite picture books of mine, and I still love them. I love the humour in them. They're also set in Dorset, so because my mum's originally from Dorset, we've always had a soft spot for these picture books. And I've been wanting to find a lovely old copy of the first one in the series for ages, and I found one in Hatchard and Daughters. So I was really thrilled. I think this is just such a sweet story, so beautifully illustrated, and it was really nice that they had a few classic children's picture books in that bookshop. You don't always see very many of those, so I'm really excited when there's a secondhand bookshop that has an emphasis on children's books and picture books, as well as lots of adult ones too. So that was really lovely. And then I was very excited to spot this book, the Brontë Yearbook by Juliet Barker. I think the cover on this is just stunning, front and back. It's absolutely beautiful. I love the bluebells around the border. I think that's so pretty. And this is a lovely selection that Juliet Barker has chosen. There's something for sort of every day of the year that's writing of the Brontë sisters. So it goes month by month, day by day, through the year, starting in January. And I think this is just such a special book. It's beautifully illustrated as well, which I always love so much. And I was just delighted to come across this. I'd never heard of this before. So I was really over the moon to find it. Really stunning edition of it too. It's in very good shape. So really thrilled with this one. And then you know how much I love Ronald Blythe's writing. I was so saddened by his recent death, but I spotted his name on the spine of this book in the bookshop, and I had to have a closer look. And it sounds fascinating. It says, Paul and John Nash, Dora Carrington and Christine Colental, I'm not quite sure how you say the last name, met at the Slade School, much the same age, each wonderfully gifted, yet troubled and released by the new freedoms of the period. After the death of John and Christine Nash, Ronald Blythe discovered a tin trunk full of letters in the brick oven of their farm, because they left him their farm, of course, so he did so much of his writing from there. These were the letters this extraordinary group of friends had written to each other since just before the First World War and throughout the 1920s. The letters they wrote, embellished with energetic and often hilarious sketches, reflect the uncertainty of these years. Who would be killed in the trenches, who would fail as lover or artist, who would eventually have the strength to live as he or she chose, and not to be defeated by the tough conventions of the day. They are profound, funny, sad, and brave by turn. Blythe has put together these candid and intimate letters, as well as the accomplished and startling paintings of the group. Here is a book about student days, the Western Front, friendship and courtship, and the real passion which all four shared, a love of landscape. So it looks a very special book. There are some wonderful illustrations throughout. I love, for instance, the artwork of Dora Carrington. Here are some by her. So I was really just delighted to get this. I think it looks like a very interesting book and a lovely one to add to my Ronald Blythe collection. And then, very appropriately, I got this book, My Dearest Mouse, The Wind in the Willows Letters by Kenneth Grahame. Obviously, I've chosen The Wind in the Willows as the Comfort Book Club read for March, so this really felt like it was meant to be when I spotted it in the bookshop, and it makes fascinating reading already. It says, Kenneth Grahame's classic book, The Wind in the Willows, began as a series of letters written by him to his only child, 7-year-old Alistair, who was known as Mouse, during the summer of 1907. And this book has collected the letters together and reproduced the originals, as well as written out clearly what it says in each letter. The Grahams were in Cornwall, so it's lovely to see the old letter headings from the sort of hotels they were staying at while they were travelling in Cornwall. And it's also beautifully illustrated with drawings by Arthur Rackham, for instance, throughout. I think there's some Ernest Shepherd illustrations as well, and different illustrations from different illustrators of The Wind in the Willows all through the book. So just very beautiful, and I was so excited to get this one, and it'll provide some really interesting background, I'm sure, to The Wind in the Willows. So I'm looking forward to reading this in March, when I also read The Wind in the Willows again for the book club. So I was very pleased to find that. And then we also picked up a couple of puffin books. So Elizabeth Fry, this is a biography by Kitty Barn for children. I'm a big Kitty Barn fan. I have a lot of her books. I love her fiction books best. This is really just me being a bit of a completist to pick this one up, and I collect puffins as well as Kitty Barn, so I couldn't resist this one. And then another lovely old puffin of Family Afloat by Aubrey de Selincourt, which I'm also very excited to get. He very much wrote in the style of Arthur Ransom, so there's lots about boats and children having water-based adventures in his stories, but I thought how attractive this old puffin edition was, so I was really thrilled to find that. And then we did just drop into the Parsonage Museum, and they had a little sale table, and they had this book really marked down, so I was delighted to pick it up. It's Celebrating Charlotte Brontë, Transforming Life into Literature in Jane Eyre. And this is such a fascinating examination of her most famous novel. It goes sort of chapter by chapter through Jane Eyre, explaining what is happening in the story, but also giving you so much interesting information about the context of the time, lots of historical detail about dress and fashion and, well, just all sorts of things, essentially giving you a wonderful background to the novel and telling you more as well about Charlotte Brontë and her life at the parsonage. So I'm such a fan of Jane Eyre, and I've read it many times, but I really like the idea of reading it and reading this book at the same time, sort of alongside my reading of Jane Eyre. At some point, I think that will make a really great project, and this just adds so much detail and understanding to the novel. I can already tell that, so really thrilled to have found that on sale. And then I also got a bookmark from the gift shop at the Brontë Parsonage. This is one illustrated by Amanda White, who has done lots of beautiful cards of literary houses, and I love all of the ones. She's done a lot of the Brontes at the parsonage, and she's also done this bookmark, and I thought how beautiful that is, so I was really thrilled to pick that up. And then I'll just reach for it. I also got a poster at the museum, which I was delighted because they had a few posters done by Britta Granstrom, who you may remember did the illustrations for my lovely pink lustreware jug that features all of the Brontë sisters as well as Branwell Brontë at the bottom of the jug. And the museum have her illustrations done as posters. Now, my very favourite Brontë novel is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Brontë. So I picked up the Anne Brontë poster, which I think is such a lovely one, really charming. I need to find the right sort of frame for this, but I couldn't resist getting the poster. So that was really lovely. And then someone on Instagram had told me that I had to go to the chocolate shop that's in Haworth, and we did go. You'll have seen that on my little clip, and we picked up a few little truffles that I'm really looking forward to enjoying later, at least some of them anyway. But anyway, what I'm going to do now is I want to make just a very simple dessert for this evening. We're going to have one of our sort of favourite easy suppers because we're celebrating the end of not only a very nice but extremely hectic week for me, but it's actually just been a really full-on month, or just over a month, and I'm really looking forward actually to having a couple of days resting a bit after this because I've been just working absolutely flat out for the past month, and we're kind of starting a bit of celebration of a really intense period kind of ending. And what we want to do is have a really lovely simple supper tonight, which for us, one of our favorite things to do. We want just a lazy supper. Is we have like a cheese and charcuterie board, so no cooking required, and we've got some fizz in the fridge. We're going to have cheese and charcuterie, but I also thought and make a little special dessert that still is very easy. I'm going to make a Rhubarb Fool, which is one of my favorite things. And if you'd like some inspiration for a lovely dessert with Valentine's coming up, then this is such a nice one. It looks so pretty because you use pink forced rhubarb mixed in with cream. So it's pink and white, and it looks like a very, very pretty dessert. But it's so easy to make. It really is barely any cooking, and it tastes delicious. So it's definitely a favourite of mine. So I thought I'd start that off and show you how I do it, in case you want to make it yourselves as well. So I'm going to go into the kitchen now and get started on that, get it ready so I can just put it in the fridge to chill for a bit later this evening. So I've gathered together everything to make my Rhubarb Fool. I've chopped up the rhubarb and it just looks lovely. I always get so excited when the pink forced rhubarb is in season. And I've got my sugar and my almond essence. So this is the first stage of the recipe. Like I said, it's very, very easy, and I'll put all of the ingredients and the whole recipe in the video description box, so make sure you have a look at it there. But I would say that you could judge the sugar a bit yourself. I'm using 35 grams of sugar, and I think you could use anywhere between 25 to 50 grams of sugar. It really depends on how sweet your rhubarb is. So this one still has quite a lot of sharpness obviously to it, but it's not too sharp. So I went for 35 grams of sugar, but I would recommend just tasting your rhubarb and seeing what you think. So anyway, I'm just going to add the rhubarb and the sugar and the almond essence to the saucepan and just let the fruit cook and soften. I'm really excited to have this later. Okay, the rhubarb has finished cooking. It's looking lovely. I'm just going to pop it in this dish so it cools down. And then once it's cool, I'm going to whip the cream. And then I'll assemble it together. But whilst I'm just waiting for that to finish cooling off, I thought I'd do a little Valentine gift guide for you. So I've just gathered together a few little things that I think will make really sweet Valentine or Palentine or Galentine or just yourself-entine, whatever it is you're celebrating and whatever kind of love you're celebrating. I have a few little things that I think show a lot of love. So I'm going to tell you about those now, and then we'll come back and just assemble this. Okay, so just while I'm waiting for the rhubarb to cool, I've gathered together some of my little gift ideas that are Valentine inspired, and I've got a little stationery sort of card edit because I think it's so lovely to send a card to someone you love this time of year. And this one I think is really adorable for Valentine's. It's a beautiful fold out card with a floral pattern. I think that's just so sweet. That would put a smile on anyone's face to receive a card like that. It's by Hadley Paper Goods. I'll put the links in the description box as usual. But I love my fold out cards. They always make such a pretty and a bit more of a dramatic effect. So I thought how lovely this one was. And a couple other fold out cards. Here's one from Cambridge Imprint that I think is beautiful. I love those jugs filled with flowers. It's so very me. And what a pretty card to send to someone. Again, I think that would just put a big smile on anyone's face, but it would also be a lovely little gift to yourself if you want a pretty decoration like this just to go on your bookcase or on top of the mantelpiece or on top of your desk or something like that. This looks really pretty. And then I also love this one by Cambridge Imprint that features dancers, and it's another fold out card. I think that one is really attractive as well. I love their dresses. So Cambridge Imprint do some beautiful cards and stationery. I really love their stuff, and these two cards of theirs really took my eye. And then some more traditional cards, but again I think these would be really lovely to send to your Galentine maybe. I adore the artwork of Vanessa Bowman, and these cards are just so pretty. I love the snowdrops in the front of this one with the pink cottage behind. I think that's very special. But she's got lots of really lovely paintings that she's made into cards, and her cards often feature couples, which is lovely, but also people with their dogs, which I like a lot as well. So I think these would make really lovely Valentines or Palentines or Galentines sorts of cards. I think they're really charming. And she's also done a floral set, which I think are really beautiful as well. Snowdrops again feature in quite a few of these, and I think that they're just so pretty. Perfect this time of year to send a card with snowdrops in it. Will make anyone excited for spring, I think. And then speaking of snowdrops, I also picked up these note cards by Angie Lewin, which feature two lovely snowdrop watercolours by her in a February coronation mug and then a 1953 coronation mug, both filled with snowdrops. So really appropriate for February, and yes, just a nice idea to send someone a card this month and let them know that you're thinking of them. So that's the stationery that I thought you might enjoy seeing as well. Another idea is this gorgeous new cookbook by Skye McAlpine. It's called A Table Full of Love, Recipes to Comfort, Seduce, Celebrate, and Everything Else in Between. And this is a cookbook that really celebrates love and showing love by making food for others as well as for yourself. There are menus suggested for 1, for 2, for 4 or 6 or more, which I really like, that there's food for one or food for many in here. And the recipes are divided between ones that comfort or seduce or nourish or spoil or cocoon. Isn't that lovely? Recipes that cocoon. I think that's so nice. And each chapter also starts with some of Skye's thoughts on different types of love. So Cocoon, for instance, starts with some thoughts on self-love and recipes just for one. And Spoil, for instance, starts with some thoughts on affection and recipes for edible presents. So just a really lovely book celebrating love and friendship and food and gatherings. I think that that is really special. I have Skye McAlpine's other 2 cookbooks as well that I really like. I love the bit of Italian inspiration that comes into so much of her cooking as she spends time between London and Venice. And the photography is to die for, as always, as well in these. But this will make a lovely spoiling gift for someone. Persephone did a lovely Valentine's offer where you could pick any of their books, and I chose Miss Bunkle Married, which is certainly a very Valentine's-y book. Would be a lovely book to give to someone for Valentine's. I love the end papers, they're so pretty. And this is the second in the series. The first is Miss Bunkle's book, which you may remember we did last February for the Comfort Book Club. So you could also always treat yourself if you want to carry on the series and read the next one. The Persephone edition is lovely, and they're doing a Valentine's offer where you can get a book with 2 napkins, which I think these are so pretty, and it came really beautifully tied with velvet ribbon. So that's really lovely from Persephone Books. And then you know how much I adore Emma Bridgewater, and this is a little vase set that is very Valentine's appropriate, and I think they're all such charming designs and really nice shapes of vases too. So there's this one, a sort of milk bottle type design with little hearts on. I think that's so sweet. And then this one with the little floral pattern, really beautiful. I love that one. And then a bit of a smaller one that has her hares and hearts design, which I think is really lovely. This one is new for this year with the hares, and I really love that. Or maybe they're just rabbits, not hares, but they're very sweet anyway. So those vases, I think, are such a beautiful little set. They make a really special gift for someone. And then just some little gift ideas too that are very budget friendly. I absolutely love Whitaker's Rose, and they also do violet creams. I think these are so nice and they're so reasonable. They're about £2.50 each, so you can pick up 2 for £5, and they would just be such a lovely little gift to give someone. Rose and violet creams are so classic and a lovely treat, and always very Valentine's-y, I think. So this is a great small gift or little budget gift, but that still has a very special touch to it, and they're very tasty, so I recommend those. And then also for those in the UK, Marks and Spencer's are doing a lovely little collaboration with Emma Bridgewater, and you can pick up this sweet Emma Bridgewater tin with the love pattern on it, and there are some hyacinth bulbs coming up in them, so I can't wait for mine to bloom. I love hyacinths. I love the scent of them. So again, just a really simple but lovely little gift for someone, this one. So anyway, those are just a few little ideas of some Valentine's inspired gifts that I thought you might like to hear about as well. I mean, they're pretty much all lovely, not just for Valentine's, obviously, too. They'd make lovely gifts any time of year, but I thought I'd share these ones with you ahead of Valentine's, if you wanted a bit of inspiration for that. But I'm going to go down. Hopefully the rhubarb has cooled now, and I can make the rest of the Rhubarb Fool. So I've come back down. I'm just letting the rhubarb finish cooling off in the fridge, and in the meantime I'm going to whip some cream. By the way, speaking of lovely Valentine gifts, I was so thrilled to get my first bunch of Smith & Munson tulips for this year. I've told you before how much I love their tulips, and I put an order in for February, and I think these are so pretty. They're making me so happy already. But anyway, let's whip up this cream, and then it will be ready very soon to add to the rhubarb to make my fool. Okay, so I've whipped it till it's just starting to stiffen, and I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of Saint-Germain, which is an elderflower liqueur, one of my favourite things to use in cooking actually. And I'm just going to pop this in, gives a lovely delicate flavour. I love rhubarb and almond and elderflower all together. It smells so delicious too, and I also find it helps to sweeten this a little bit, which when you're using rhubarb, which is very sour, is quite a good thing. So I'm just going to whip this into it now. There we go, it doesn't take long. And then I'm going to get the rhubarb and fold it in. So I've got my rhubarb out of the fridge and I'm just going to fold it in. You can see how easy but delicious this is, which is just the kind of recipe that I really like. I'm going to get this all in there. It does look so pretty. It's a marbled effect with the rhubarb just rippled through the cream. It looks so attractive. And of course, it really is delicious as well. So I'm going to pop these into these lovely glasses. I'm going to fill them so that Mum and I can enjoy this for dessert for our treaty evening coming up, which I'm very excited about. And I'm going to just do a tiny little taster one for me now, so I can tell you that it actually tastes good, which hopefully it will. I don't think I've done anything wrong. So I'm just going to spoon the mixture into these. Again, just a really simple way to serve them, but they look quite attractive in little glasses like that. You could also use some bigger teacups or just bowls if you don't have anything else, but I think that that looks pretty in the glass. So I'll top the other one up. It just about makes enough for two, so perfect Valentine's-y dessert as well if you want something easy but yummy for Valentine's. And I'm just going to put a little bit into my lovely little teacup so I can try it. And then how I also like to serve these is I like to put just some very little biscuits. These are amarettini, sort of extra tiny amaretti biscuits, and just put a couple at the side. And then I'm just going to flake over a few flaked almonds. I'm just going to pop a few of those on the top. I'll do that later when I'm actually serving the ones in my glasses. I'll put some little biscuits at the side and I'll put some almonds over the top, but I'm just going to try my little taster one with you. That's so good. It's so light and creamy, but the rhubarb with its sharpness just sort of cuts through the cream a bit, but it's really light and delicious tasting. I love the Saint-Germain mixed in with the cream. The almonds on the top just give that bit of crunch as well, which I really like. It's a nice contrast to the velvety smoothness of the pudding. So good. So good. And highlights a wonderful seasonal ingredient for February. Well, I can't wait to have more later. So I'm going to put these in the fridge. They should be chilled for at least an hour. So I'm going to put mine in for a few hours until we're ready for them this evening. So I'm going to put them in the fridge, and then when I bring them out, like I said, I'll just scatter over the flaked almonds and put a few little biscuits on the side. So I'm going to just cover them and put them in the fridge now. But anyway, I hope that you've been having a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much as always for watching my video. Do give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Very big thanks to all of your lovely comments on my last video, and super thanks to all of you who pressed the super thanks button on that last video too. I so appreciate it. But I appreciate all of the lovely comments and likes and all of the support that you're showing on my videos. I'm so very grateful, and I hope you've all had a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you again on Thursday. Goodbye.